And then there's change-ups off of those things, but they're good at what they do, and they're a lot more multiple than you think. When you look at what they're doing on offense, they're throwing the ball a lot more than they ever have. In my opinion, or at least in recent years, they're very good at that. Multiple up front in terms of the different fronts that we're seeing, the different coverages that you get. So, we got to be prepared because they're very intelligent. They can handle high levels of information and a good team.
Third row right, Dylan Davis, Delaware Gazette.
I know you've talked a lot about toughness going back to the offseason and certainly leading up to the season. Is this kind of a perfect game for you and your team in that regard, given the kind of style of game you're probably going to see on Saturday?
Yeah, like I said, it's kind of the epitome of the Big Ten. You're going to get this when you get into conference play, and we knew that. That's why we talked about this going into the game. We know their style of play, and that's not unique to Wisconsin. So we have to be able to play in these styles of games.
Real quickly about Dallin Hayden, getting a chance to watch the film and see how he performed. What is your assessment of his performance?
Good. Number one thing is he took care of the ball, and he has to continue to do that moving forward. Because the more you do that, the more trust you build with your teammates. And that's the number one thing everybody's trying to do is show their teammates that they can be counted on. And that's the first thing. I thought he had some really good lanes to run. I thought the offensive line did a good job, but he also hit some holes and created some explosive plays for us.
Right behind him, Spencer Holbrook, Letterman Row.
Ryan, you've had a couple of issues so far this season at cornerback. What do you guys need to correct there? And do you see like an underlying issue there that could continue, or do you see that getting better?
I think that there's been plays on the corners, and we got to do a better job of making plays when it comes to the one-on-one situations. But we have confidence in our guys that they'll make the plays, and it's a couple of them have been a little funky. Like the one in the Notre Dame game where he kind of bobbled it and caught it. Another one that was a little bit strange the other night. But still, at the end of the day, you got to do your job and make sure that your man doesn't catch the football.
Cameron Martinez, he got his first start. I don't know if there's going to be any issues with Tanner and those guys coming back, but how do you think Cam played, and what do you see his future there?
Great out of champion, played well, did some really good things. Got a new opponent this week, so it'll be a bigger challenge for those guys. But I think that you can see that we do have some depth at that position, which is going to be important as we head into conference play.
Right behind him, Katie Kapusta, Spectrum One.
Hey, Coach, a little bit off topic is specifically about Wisconsin, but tonight Harry Miller is talking publicly about his mental health journey, and as an advocate for mental health, how important is that to see him sharing his journey with the community?
No, I think it's unbelievable. Harry actually asked me to speak at it and introduce him tonight. I wasn't able to do that because we have practice, but it was able to record a short video just introducing him and talking about just the courage of a young man who's had an impact on so many people. And I was very fortunate enough to be the one that recruited him, and we knew that Harry was special. We knew that he was going to have an impact on people. Never would you imagine it would be like this. And at such a young age, have such a great impact on people. And he's still in a battle. We know that, and I'm proud of what he's done and what he's doing.
Front row left, Dave Biddle, 24/7 Sports.
Ryan, did you expect Cade to be this explosive in the passing game? I'm sure you expected a lot out of him as a blocker. Did you expect? He looks very explosive out there.
Yeah, yes, we did, and that's kind of what we want out of the tight end position. And when he's had his opportunities, he's made plays so far. But you can see, first off, that he can block. He's done a good job in protection, and now he's shown what he can do on the perimeter, and certainly in pass, run past conflicts, and he can run. He's an athletic player. Was a really good basketball player in high school. He's got good ball skills. When you're playing tight end, you have to do so many different job descriptions, and it's just a developmental position. But we saw the skill sets in him. Personally, I saw it a few years ago. We had a lot of conversations. He's kind of he has a defensive mentality at sometimes, and I think his heart was a little bit on defense. But then he realized that his ceiling was at tight end, and to his credit, he put his faith in us that we were going to try to do everything we could to develop him. No guarantees, but. So far, so good there, and he's got to keep building on it because he can be a weapon for us.
I know you don't like talking about injuries, but what can you tell us about Travion? Do you expect he'll play this week?
Yeah, yep. Same thing with him. It was just a short-term thing that we're expected to happen for Saturday. Yeah.
Third row left, Dan Hope, 11 Warriors.
Ryan, you talked on Saturday about the offensive staff coming up with different packages for the offense. Kind of what's that process like between you and Kevin and all the other experienced coaches you have on the staff?
Yeah, it's right in that room there. There's all kinds of all over the walls. It's just all this stuff here where you can draw over the walls. There's probably no open space. Just a bunch of people coming up with ideas. And, when you're in that room, there can't be any egos. You got to try to just throw out ideas. And ultimately, Kevin and I make the final decisions, but Brian Hartline has tremendous ideas, and Justin Fry has really good ideas, and same thing with Tony and Corey. I mean, and we have a good group in there. And so when you have enough trust in that room where you can throw out ideas and not feel like maybe your idea didn't get put up there and you get your feelings hurt a little bit, there's none of that goes on in there. Guys just throw out ideas, and the best idea wins. And but making sure that you have enough opportunity to practice those and get good at them too, because you can get crazy on that end too. You have to figure out what your players can know, and it ultimately comes down to those guys, And I think the thing for us with CJ and some of the older guys, more veteran guys on offense, is we're getting some decent feedback on, the volume of plays, what plays they like, make sense. And anytime you get that type of feedback back from your players during the game week, that certainly helps us come up with a game plan going into Saturdays.
What has Justin brought to that process being a new coach?
Very intelligent, really sees it from a wider lens than just the offensive line. He's played in multiple schemes, so he has a good background in that area, and has a lot of ideas, and that's great. But I think at the end of the day, it comes down to what can you actually install and see on the film on Saturday, and that's to me where so far there's been progress made, and a long way to go, but we're moving the needle there.
Second row middle, Nathan Baird, Cleveland.com.
Kind of on the same topic a little bit, but when you're facing someone like Jim Leonard, the defensive coordinator, with his resume, I suppose, like how much does that play into how you approach a game as a play caller? And on Saturday, as you're making decisions, are you thinking about the tendencies of that other guy across the way, or is it all just about your team?
No, it's a great question. I got a lot of respect for Jim Leonard. I always have. Going up against him, for a couple times here, and his defenses are always some of the best in the country. So, it's going to be a big challenge for us. But at the end of the day, it doesn't have anything to do with the coaches. It comes down to the players. What do the players know? What can the players do? And as much as sometimes it seems like matching wits between coordinators, sure that comes into play. But at the end of the day, it's what do your players know? What can they execute on the field?
You talked after the game, and I think you said it during the week last week, about how physical practice was last week. Was that something that just happened organically? Was it something that you and the staff were trying to instill last week?
I mean, it's always an emphasis for us, but we know that has to be a big part of our game. And so, it's something we're emphasizing for sure, but the players responded, and it was what it was. I mean, if it's a good week of practice, you got to call it for what it is. If it's not a good week of practice, you got to call it for what it is, and typically that has an effect on the game on Saturday. So I think I mentioned this before. I get more anxious and worked up on Tuesday, Wednesday than I do on Saturday, because the work and preparation that needs to be done here in the next 48 hours is so important to how well you play on Saturday. Because if you've seen it on film and you've physically done it, it's just a matter of being a competitive excellence. If you haven't done that, then now you're just kind of hoping that it works out that way on Saturdays. And so that's why this is so important to do a great job on Tuesday and Wednesday.
Last week you said Jordan Hancock sounded like he might be close to playing, but then he was inactive. Where's his status right now?
It's been a while now since he's practiced for us, and we still think that he's close, but he's not where he needs to be just yet to get on the field.
Fourth row middle, Pat Murphy, 24/7 Sports.
Ryan, you guys started the season with Notre Dame. You opened Big Ten with Wisconsin. Do you like getting these challenges? Or I guess, what are your thoughts on getting these challenges out of the way early?
I don't know. We play 9 conference games, so those are always going to be hard. And then when you add Notre Dame in there, there's 10. So, 10 out of the 12 are going to be this way. It's just kind of the way it goes. So that's where the competitive excellent conversation comes into play. And you got to be ready to go from the jump, and you got to play well the whole season. So, it's something that we knew going into the season, and it is what it is, and this is what we got to do.
And the cross-division games, when maybe you don't see Wisconsin or other teams that you have on your schedule each year as often,
Right.
How much does that change what you guys have to do preparation-wise, film?
Yeah, we have played them, so it's not like we haven't seen them at all. Some teams, like, maybe you don't see for like 3 or 4 years, maybe longer. But, we have played Wisconsin. We played them twice that one year, and certainly keep an eye on them. And then there's also the crossover games that you see on film on a week-to-week basis. So, but it is a little bit different because it's not like you play them every year. So, it's the same for both sides. It's just who can handle it better.
Front row right, Austin Ward, Rivals, 97.1 The Fan.
Ryan, after the game, Kevin was sort of talking about Mayan and Dowan having this one-cut style and committing to it and going, getting their pads vertical. Have you all felt that Trey has been at that same level with that, or maybe trying to do too much at times? How have you felt when he's been out there, not on Saturday, obviously?
Yeah. I thought even in the few reps that he had early in the game, I thought he was running hard. And I thought in the Notre Dame game he ran hard, in the 4-minute drill especially. So I think that whole room is getting a mentality of running hard and taking some pride in that. And that goes, with the mentality of the offensive line and the tight ends and kind of everybody on offense kind of want that edge about him. So I think he's done his part so far, and I know that all of those guys want to run hard and be physical.
Just thinking back to, like, J.K. admitted in 2018 that he struggled with that and was trying to hit home runs, and that was that sophomore year after a good freshman year. I didn't know if there were parallels to that, if that's something that elite running backs, think they can do it every time and want to do it every time, or if they have to get through that, or what that process is like.
No, I think it's a good point. It's something that we kind of learned in JK's second year, is that you don't want to get anybody dinged up, but they have to learn to play on contact, and they have to learn to run through things, and it's something that we've talked to Trey about a bunch, and I think we've been all over it. I think Tony's been all over it, and I think he's run that way so far this year. I haven't seen anything other than that. So, but it's something we always keep an eye on.
Third row right, Tony Gergen, Buckeye Huddle.
Ryan, prior to this past game, when was the last time you called a fullback dive?
I think I ran a fullback dive when I was in college, but I don't think we've called the fullback dive.
So that's the first time you've ever called one as a play caller?
Yes.
Going back to the question about the coaches who put stuff in and the ideas, whose idea was the I-form? And how much has that been related to your call for toughness?
Yeah, I think we have the right people in place to get into some of those formations now. I think you look at the tight ends. We actually had Josh Friars, our extra tight end in the game, who's very athletic. And then you have, Cade and G and Joe and Mitch, so you have some guys who can get into those sets, which gives us a little bit of flexibility there. Kevin has a background with I formation. When Justin and I were together at Boston College, our 2-minute drill was, power to the right, so we threw the ball like about, 6 times a game. So everybody in that room has, a background in that style of play, and there's a place for it when you have those styles of guys in your room, and the versatility helps you. And it's something we're trying to build on.
Is it a challenge to the players as well?
I think they like it, right? I think that it's just a different feel when you're under center and you're coming at people as opposed to being in the gun. And I think when you're just one way, then defenses do a great job now. I mean, they're really good of kind of teeing off on you. So when you can change things up a little bit, I think it gives a little bit of diversity to your offense.
Deep center, Jeremy Birmingham, Rivals.
When it comes to recruiting stuff, do you guys use rankings nationally as more of a starting point or a comparison point for what your personal evaluations are? And how hard is it to sort of pull away from the lure of chasing those on the trail?
Well, we're definitely aware of it. We have our own evaluations, as you know, and we kind of rank our guys and go through, and then every once in a while we'll say, what do they rank nationally on some of the publications, just to get an idea. Typically, the higher rated guys are a little bit harder to get, and that's just the way it is. Doesn't mean that maybe they're the right fit for us, or our evaluation is in line with what maybe that ranking is. And so we try to find the right fit for us. And it's pretty close. The guys who are ranked high are usually really good football players. That's and maybe there's a couple that aren't. So yeah, I mean, when there's somebody out there that we evaluate very highly, that's high on our list, that is highly recruited, we're competitive, we want to go get them.
Quick pivot away from that. With a guy like G, when you guys have seen as a coaching staff just the last couple of years, he's had a lot of difficulty getting himself physically ready, the changing positions, that kind of stuff. There's been some, just difficult times that he's dealt with personally. How rewarding is it for you guys to see him make that turn, but then do you feel an obligation to make sure that he gets the ball? I mean, it seems like you tried to hit him in a few times on Saturday night.
Definitely. I thought he deserved it in that game. I tried. It didn't quite work out the way that we thought it would work out a couple times, but that's just the way it goes. and Cade and Mitch were like that early in the season, and then it kind of, things have worked out a little better recently. But, you can't always set it up that way. The coverage is going to dictate where the ball goes. But G in particular, everyone has their own journey. I'm certainly pretty sure that G didn't think that his journey would go like this when he came to Ohio State. But to G's credit, he has worked every day. He's put his head down. He's shown toughness. And he's got a chance to be a really good football player because he just keeps putting one foot in front of the other. And you can see, in the Arkansas State game, he came in there and they saw him as a receiver. You can tell by the way that they played their front. He lined up as a tight end, went right down the field and ran the ball. And that's important to have an athletic, physical tight end like that. So, we're going to keep building that. And, there's no guarantees because you just never know how things are going to shake out in a game plan or how it works. But he is going to be an asset for us on offense this year and moving forward. And it has everything to do with how he just keeps showing up every day and working. And so I'm proud of what he's done.
Far right, Adam King, WBNS.
You guys scored 11 touchdowns last week. When you look at a team like Wisconsin that can take the air out of the ball, how hard is it to keep an offense in rhythm like you guys were against Toledo?
It's definitely hard. That's where Wisconsin's always been really good over the years, is doing that. So we've got to do a great job of, understanding how they're trying to attack us and win the time of possession, be physical, get off the field on third down.
Kind of a pivot question here. You guys are now getting ready for your fourth home game of 5 straight. How much is not having to worry about going on the road and all of that logistically and preparing your team for that allowed you to just focus in on these games?
I hadn't quite thought about it until maybe driving in this morning, was that we haven't had to worry about any of that stuff, and I guess it's definitely a positive, just getting into a rhythm of things. But at some point we're going to have to go play on the road. We know that, and we'll make those adjustments because, it's just inevitable. You got to go on the road and go win some games. But right now, like you said, we've gotten a little bit of routine here, so hopefully that it can be an advantage for us.
Front row middle, Joey Kaufman, Columbus Dispatch.
Ryan, on the first touchdown that CJ threw to Julian in the game where he rolls out of the pocket and is buying time and waits and that play develops, how much more comfortable is CJ throwing when like out of the pocket, out of structure, in a play like that to happen?
Well, I think you can see the work that he's done in the offseason just with his body, his movement, quickness, speed, strength. I think he showed a couple things in this past game. He scrambled at one point and got us to third and manageable. He pulled the ball on a run. He picked up about 4 or 5 yards, and then you saw a couple more extended plays where he's breaking the pocket and looking downfield. And so I think on that drive he had one to Cade, and then he had one to Julian for the touchdown. So and he can do it left, he can do it right. He's been doing a nice job of that. So anytime you can extend plays and allow your receivers more time to get open, it's an advantage, and he's shown that he can do that.
Is that primarily physical development? Is it mental where you're just comfortable back there? Where does that largely owe?
Yeah, I think it's both. I think you have to have the confidence physically to be able to extend and get away from the rush, but also just the speed of the game and understanding where the bodies are. I think that there's a feel. You don't look at the rush, you feel the rush, and there's an art to finding the escape hatch, and he's shown that he can do that.
Second row left, Stephen Means, Cleveland.com.
Right. You spent a lot of time in the spring emphasizing the need to build depth in that tight end room.
Yeah.
About what point in fall camp did you feel like you accomplished that to the point where you're running I formation and stuff and all that 12 personnel?
I probably midway through preseason, just seeing how those guys are and that we can count on them. It's one thing to go through the off season. It's another thing to actually get on the field and see them do it. And then they start to put together a body of work. And like everything else, every day we're out there, we're trying to build trust in the guys around us, coaches, players, and those guys have done that. They've shown up every day. They've made plays. They've blocked. And again, those tight ends, they have to go block a 7 technique. Then they have to, against, JTT or Zach Harrison or whoever they're blocking, right? Then the next play, they have to pick up a blitz of Tommy Eichenberg, and then the next one they got to go get open against a safety or a corner on the perimeter. Those are not easy to do, and so it takes time to develop those skills. But they've made progress, and we've made progress there. Still, again, building on it, but I think there's been a lot of positive there.
Obviously proven he can be a weapon for you in the passing game, but so did Jeremy Rucker, so did Luke Farrell. Is him being maybe more involved at this point a reflection on his development, or maybe CJ's development, maybe getting to other reads in the
Yeah, maybe a combination of everything, whatever that is. But give Cade credit when he's had a chance to make plays, he's made them.
Right next door, Stephen Hellwagen, 24/7 Sports.
Yeah, the last time you guys played Wisconsin in 2019, you were behind 21-7 at halftime, and you haven't played them the last 2 years, so 3/4 of your team's never lined up and played against Wisconsin.
Right.
Understands the physicality, perhaps. Just they're not ranked. They lost to Washington State. Just from a psychological standpoint, what do you have to do to impart to everybody that this is a team that can beat anybody in the country on any given day?
Right, and without sounding like a broken record, it's that's what it is every week. And any team can beat you, and you can beat any team. And you can say that once, or you can keep saying it till you're blue in the face. But the guys have to listen, and they got to believe in you. And we know about Wisconsin. We know the style of play. We know exactly what we have to do. But that doesn't mean it's going to happen. We got to go do it on Saturday. And this is a very good team that plays really hard and takes care of the football. So we're going to talk to them about all those types of things and challenge them. But again, this is not something that's just coming up right here at 2:30 team meeting. I mean, we've been talking about this for a long time, and knowing that every week it's going to be a new challenge. What are these challenges? A lot of them are the same. You got to tackle well. You got to run the ball. You got to stop the run. You got to take care of the football. You got to play well in special teams. We know all of those types of things. But then there's some things based on where your team's at, based on the opponent specifically, that you got to do that week. And so we'll just keep hammering those and keep messaging the team the best we can so that we can play our best on Saturday.
We haven't seen many 3 linebacker looks yet. Is this an opponent that likes to run the football to where, and this will be a good question for Coach Knowles here in a little bit, but is 4-3 a possibility, a little bit of it this week?
Yeah, you'll have to get with Jim on that. But, they do certainly, have some different things that they like to get into that are different than we do on offense, multiple tight ends. And so, there'll be different plans in order to handle what they do.
Fourth row right, Cameron T. Robinson, The Athletic.
Ryan, you talked about G and kind of the growth he's made.
Yeah.
Last week he was talking about how he's kind of realizing the mentality of I don't have to have a catch to have a good game because he does so much. When did you see that mentality really kind of click for him?
Probably midway through preseason camp. That approach tells you everything you need to know about his growth and where he's going. And I'm proud of him for that. And so that's got to mean something moving forward. So what does it mean this week? I don't know. What does it mean in 2 weeks? I don't know. But if he continues to work like this, good things are going to happen to him.
Everything the tight ends have to do. How do you evaluate them week to week? Like you said, sometimes they're picking up a blitz, they're defending a D-line, running around.
Yeah, we do the best we can to grade them. Kevin does a really good job of developing tight ends, and I think he's done a great job with this room. They're an intelligent group. They're a competitive group. They all come from different backgrounds. It's kind of it's fun to see them all together in one room. But he pushes them hard, drives them hard, and I think you see that with their style of play. But we just like anybody else, we have a grading system every Saturday, and we go through and we have champions, and I think 3 of them graded out as champions, so it's good. Yeah, I think K did, and I believe G did, and I think Mitch did as well. Yeah.
Second row right, Bill Landis, The Athletic. No? Rivals?
I know you don't script scramble throws, but over the course of the spring and preseason, maybe as you saw CJ excelling in some of those, did you think and saw his physical gains as well, did you think to yourself, maybe we can work some more movement throws into the offense? Because it just seems like you guys have done a little bit more of that.
Well, it's funny, in 7-on-7, Jim, it's actually not 7-on-7, it's 8-on-7 a lot of times. So he'll drop 8 guys a lot, and I think a couple of practices he had 9 guys in coverage during 7-on-7. So we can thank him for working on our scramble drills during 7-on-7. But to be honest with you, we actually have spent a lot of time talking about that because, when you have 8, 9 guys in coverage, that certainly changes all the windows. And sometimes you have to hang on to the ball. Like on the second and whatever that was, it was a 3-man rush. that CJ had. He felt the 3-man rush, scrambled for 7 yards. And when you're dealing with 3-man rush, drop 8, second part of the route is huge. And he saw that and he felt that. So we maybe not had seen that the last couple of years. And so as we break the pocket and work the scramble drill, there's just a lot of feel to that, and nothing scripted. It's just like you said, but instead of just, checking the ball down sometimes, or instead of just throwing the ball away, we'll actually break contain and work that and coach that off of film, and it's shown up on film. So that's been a positive. Yeah.
He said, CJ said on the one he threw out of the back of the end zone, you were in the back of his head. He didn't want to force it and get yelled at, I guess. But with him, like, sometimes he'll throw a ball in that situation, and I think some of us think to ourselves, like, boy, that was pretty risky. But when you coach that, if it's complete, is it a good throw, or do you still say, hey, I know that worked, but maybe don't do that next time? Yeah,
I think it's a great question. You have to decide whether it was a good decision or not. And you can't look at the result if you're focused on the process. And that is not just in that situation. That's for a lot of guys. When you might be a offensive lineman, you don't use good technique, but maybe you get away with it on a snap because you're really talented. Is it the right technique to use, or is it just because you got away with it there? Because when you go against yourself, when it's a matchup situation, what are you going to use to have that advantage? And so we look at that in all situations. Like, was that a good play? And you can't look at the result because sometimes the results skew. And that's hard to do. Easier said than done, but it's something that our team and our coaches and our players have been challenged with, especially coming off the last game.
Right next door, Doug Lesmerises, Cleveland.com.
Ryan, I know you're not in charge of this, but maybe you have an opinion. 4th home game, 3rd night game. Great. Love all the night games. Awesome. Or does it feel like a little much?
It's been good for recruiting. Those are long days. They are. I do like when a noon game is done at about 4:30 and you can go home and enjoy the rest of the day. But I also love seeing Buckeye Nation, 105,000 people strong. St. John's Arena was rocking. The stadium was rocking. And that was great. And the electricity of the Horseshoe for a night game is nothing like it. And so that's the give and take, I guess. I'm good. I'm excited we have a night game. I'm excited to see Buckeye Nation again come out and support our guys. And we really like to be loud in this one. I was thinking about the game in 19. That was a noon game. This is a night game. So Buckeye Nation's got all day to get excited and get fired up. And let's go make this the loudest it's ever been.
The discussion that comes up a lot with opponents like Wisconsin about identity, right?
Yep.
So from your standpoint, Ohio State, again, it's not what we think, it's how opponents view you, right? What's the balance between we want to have an identity, but we also want to break tendency at time, we don't want to be too predictable? How do you go about balancing that?
Yeah, we take that very seriously. I mean, we've made it very clear from the offseason to the preseason to now is that, we want to be tough, we want to be disciplined, and we want to be skilled. Those 3 things. And that needs to be our identity. Now, on each side of the ball, we have schematic things that give us an identity as well. But we need to be those 3 things. And that's why I was upset a couple weeks ago with some of the penalties. But I thought we were better this week. I think we've been playing tough. And then the skill of, it's not just about your talent. It's about the skill of your position. It's the skill of playing football and pad level and hand placement and taking care of the football and just all those types of things that you need to be a good football player. So those are the identity. That should be the identity of the team. In terms of offense and defense, yeah, you need to have tendencies because good offenses and defenses and special teams have tendencies, but you also need to mix it up a little bit. And that's the balance you try to find. I've been there before. We've tried to do too much and we can't execute very much. I've been there before where you think, well, we'll just line up again and do the same thing, and they've been getting ready for that on the other side of the ball, and it doesn't work. So, you just try to find the best balance you can.
Got time for just a couple more. Front row. Bill Rabinowitz, Columbus Dispatch.
You've obviously harped on toughness all year. Are you at the point now where you feel confident enough about it that you're looking forward to a game like Wisconsin because you're confident in it? Or are you thinking, well, there's still some questions and this will reveal something?
I think when you look at, any team, if you can do it, it's just a matter of doing it every week, right? I mean, you can execute on 3rd down. You can be disciplined. You can play with really good pad level and run the football. You can stop the run. You can do those things. The question is, can you bring it every week? And that's what it is. I think we've shown that we can do those types of things. But the challenge is the competitive stamina, and can we do it week in and week out? So, this will be a very, very good team. It'll be the best quarterback we've seen. It'll be the best running back we've seen. It'll be, a lot of best we've seen so far. And certainly the first conference game will always be a challenge.
A question about Luke Whippler. Center's got to be the leader of the line. How is he in that role? And just anything else you might want to say about Harry's development? Or I'm sorry, Luke's development.
Yeah, no, Luke is typical of a center. He's type A. He wants to get everything right, but he takes a lot of pride in his work and works really hard. I see him in here getting extra work, watching extra film, and that's what you want out of your center, because he's the guy who's got to get everybody together. And he does a very, very good job of that. You got to be a good communicator. You got to be able to process high levels of information. You got to be able to make in-game adjustments. And he really feeds off of that. And he and Justin have really built a good, strong relationship. So, because of that, it's been great.
Or you said it's Justin.
Yeah, no, I'm saying he and Justin Fry.
Oh, Justin Fry. Okay.
Yeah, I think that the two of those guys really get along well because, they spend a lot of time together in that meeting room, going through the fronts, going through the protections, going through the identifications and the adjustments. Yeah.
And final questions, front row right, Tim May on 3.
Yeah, I got like 1,000, but following up the I formation, what has impressed me about you since you've been here is you're not just running one play out of it. You were talking about a little bit ago with Doug about the diversity and stuff, but there was such a sample size there of what you guys can do out of the I, and how important is that for you not to just have a little gimmick in, but to have branches off of that limb? You understand? You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah. Well, I think it's important that, when you put something in, like you said, it can't just be one, because then what are you doing, and then are you building off of it moving forward? And so you want to have a package when you're putting something in, and sometimes it works out really good, sometimes it doesn't, and when it does, you build on it. And that's the idea, is that you're trying to build something for down the road. You're not just putting it in there and splashing it in there. Yeah.
Yeah. And the other thing, this pre-conference schedule, as you look back on it now, you've developed depth at wide receiver, playing depth at wide receiver, in the safety room. The offensive line guys got to play a lot in the second half of the year. I'm talking backups and stuff.
Yep.
As you look back on it, has it been a pretty good developmental preseason schedule or pre-conference schedule?
I mean, we're in it now, but I think in those 3 games, like you said, there's been some things, some boxes that you can at least check to say, okay, now going into conference play, we at least have an idea what we're dealing with here. Some by necessity, some because it just worked out that way. But yeah, I'm not that we have all the answers right now, but there's been some boxes checked for sure, but still a lot more to check.
Thank you, Coach. Thank you very much.
All right, guys, thanks.
All right, folks, we're going to bring Coach Jim Knowles down. We got him for about 15 minutes. So, open up the floor, far left, Andy Anders, Buckeye Sports Bulletin.
Yes, Jim, I know we've asked several questions about him throughout the season, but I just kind of wanted to get your thoughts on how his development has been.
Say that again.
Lathan Ransom, what you've seen in terms of his development as he's got more snaps as the season has progressed.
Yeah, we've been bullish on Lathan from the time he first showed up in practice, right, because he was hurt. And he just gets better every week, can now play multiple positions, just helping the defense more and more as he continues to learn, but love the way he plays.
That physicality he showed in the box against Notre Dame, is that sort of chess piece helpful to have against kind of a similar offense?
Yeah, when you have safeties who can cover and attack the line of scrimmage, it just makes your defense better, and we'll certainly need it this week.
Deep left, Brendan Gulick, Buckeyes Now and Sports Illustrated.
Coach, just kind of considering the different schemes you've seen these first 3 weeks, I know you obviously had no part in setting the schedule, but do you feel like you've gotten enough breadth of looks from an offense that you feel like you've seen lots of stuff as you get ready for conference play?
Well, you never feel totally comfortable. I mean, that's, life as a defense coordinator in big-time college football, because it's not the NFL. You change week to week in terms of what you face. But I think we have seen enough to coach off of, and that's what you're looking for, real life game examples to show your guys. And I think you're right. We've had enough of a variety to at least be ready for this situation.
I want to ask you a question about Denzel Burke and just his level of attention to detail as he prepares. He's had some good moments. He's had some tough moments. Can you speak about how he preps for games?
Denzel's serious about his craft, comes in early, works with Coach Walt, does all the right things. Like I said before, it's life on an island is difficult, and particularly at the Ohio State with all the attention, and he's just going to get better and better every week. We have 100% confidence in him.
Second row right, Doug Lesmerises, Cleveland.com.
Jim, just looking back real quick, when you face a quarterback like Finn, who had escapability on Saturday, what did you think your defense learned from facing a quarterback like that, and how do you think you guys handled him?
I don't think we did a great job. That starts with me. I think it was not at the level that we want our defense to be, silver bullet caliber. It wasn't there. Now, yeah, a lot to learn from it. Always great that you win and you can learn from that, but I think that starts with me. I feel like I didn't do a good enough job preparing them for, it's there, and you set up some things and some schemes, to combat it. But he was really talented, and I saw during the game that it's almost like when you go. I learned a lot personally too, because it's like when you go against an option team, how do you simulate that in practice? It's difficult. How do you simulate a scrambling quarterback? Near impossible, it really is, because you're not tackling in practice, you're not to get that sense of speed. So, I thought we had some schemes and some ideas, but we didn't execute them very well. And when you don't execute, that's not the player's fault. That's my fault, because you got to continue to be creative to find ways to do it. So, learned a lot from the experience. We'll get better.
Front row middle, Bill Rabinowitz, Columbus Dispatch.
We know what Wisconsin's going to do, basically. Can you just kind of describe the challenge of knowing that they're going to want to establish the run, but easier said than done defending it?
Yeah, it's Big Ten football. It's, the fact that you got to be able to win one-on-one battles in the running game, hard-fought, fist fight, all those things that you I think when you first start playing defense, as a kid, or you think about it, that's what you think of. Like, hey, I'm going to put my hand down, I'm going to defend the line, not going to, don't back up and fight, Now, as you get older and play defense, you think sacks and the glory and the game kind of changes. So, we just have to put that hard-nosed mindset and everything that Coach Mick does in the weight room, that's just all got to come down to, like you said, one play. I know you're going to run it. I know this is how you're going to block me, and it's going to be me versus you. And we have to win those situations. So our guys need to just come out prepared, and we need to practice like that.
And your run defense has been pretty good. I'm assuming you've been pretty happy with it?
Yeah, it's been good. It can get a lot better. I think that last week could have been better. I'm still looking for us to dominate in all aspects at the point of attack. We're not there yet, so I think there's still a lot more work to do.
And do you expect Mike Hall to be back?
That's what they tell me, right? That's like it's not it's above my pay grade, but
Third row left, Dan Hope, 11 Warriors.
Jim, you guys have given up a 50-yard passing play in each of the first 3 games. How much does that concern you?
We talk about explosive plays, right? And how, I've talked before about how I've built those into the system because they do happen. Now, you don't want to give up any of them, so, you never condone that, and it's always a concern, and you have to look at it and say, why did it happen, right? What's the issue? Was it just a 50-50 ball, or were we out of position? And if we were out of position, why were we out of position? So every single explosive play is concerning. It's not the end of the world, because we've shown we can recover from it, and that's important that you guys know you can recover. But every single one is concerning and needs to have an answer. Now, that answer may just be, hey, we lost a 50-50 battle. Okay, move on, next. But we look at them from a schematic standpoint, from an individual standpoint, from a technique standpoint. You try to break down every explosive play and come up with a reason.
Is there any common thread you look at and go, this is why this has happened a few times?
No, I feel like we've been on the right track in terms of looking at each one and schematically, being good where we're at scheme-wise. And, you have a missed tackle here, a 50-50 ball. Some things you can improve, but I think we're on the right track schematically, at least, in terms of being in the right places.
Second row right, Bill Landis, Rivals.
Jim, I know we've asked you about this before, but I think there's a segment of the 4-2-5. Just what's it take to play out of that personnel, but still be a stout run defense like you guys were last year and have been so far this year?
I'm only concerned myself with production, right? I'm not, I don't care whether it's 3 down or 4 down or how it looks or what the thought is in my head. I mean, that's all. It only matters when you actually see it on the field and it happens. So you're right. So, we've now demonstrated. When I was a young coach, I would have thought the same thing. You can't do that, But what I found is that if you can create indecision with the offensive line or the quarterbacks or their combination schemes or, even their one step of footwork, create a little bit of hesitation, and you have some athletes who are attacking and moving around, you give your guys an advantage. In essence, you're playing offense on defense. Now, you can't do it all the time. It's all about the mix. It's all about the balance. It's, throwing it in there every now and then, giving different looks, and having your guys believe that when you call it, you have a chance to set them back, and that's, so far we've been able to do that. And that's with, our opponent this week, if you can get them behind the sticks, you give yourself a better chance, right? Like option football, if they can roll along with stay on track and on course, now the drives get longer, and our job is to get the ball back to the offense as quickly as possible. So that puts every really first down play at a premium to try to knock them off target, knock them off pace, and then every third down is gold, because that's when you can get the ball back.
Second row middle, Nathan Baird, Cleveland.com.
It seemed like there were a lot of instances against Toledo where you had defenders who were within like an arm's length or less of getting a hand on Finn, but you were getting maybe the pressure you wanted, but a quarterback who could maybe exploit that in a way that a lot of quarterbacks won't be able to. I guess just how did you analyze how you guys were winning up front? Ryan was just in here talking about like kind of divorcing the result from whether you won the play or not. Were you able to do that at all defensively?
Yeah, I mean, too much leaving of our feet, where you feel like you're behind and you end up leaving your feet, and then you're not going to make many plays that way. So again, it goes back to everything goes back to preparation. Everything goes back to what we did that week. I can, coaches can, I had a plan for this, I had a plan for that. Well, on the field, that didn't work. And I thought, diving, leaving of the feet, that's just like guys are feeling they're a step behind a scrambling quarterback. So that goes back to me in preparation. And like I said, I thought when it came to the scrambling quarterback, who we knew was talented, we got to be more creative in finding ways to practice that, because it's difficult to simulate in practice, but that's my job.
Did you guys use someone, a non-quarterback on scout team at all?
No, we didn't do that last week. No.
How much have you followed Jim Leonard, and I don't know how much you look at other defensive coordinators around the country, but I assume you do some. Anything that stands out about just the approach that he has, or the approach that those teams have?
No, I mean, you're always paying attention to who's doing well on defense, and they have been consistently very good. So I think they have a system and they run it, and they know what they're doing. All the things that I think you want to be as a defense coordinator, I think they've been showing it. Having a system that you can count on and having answers.
Fourth row right, Cameron Teague Robinson, The Athletic.
Hey, Jim, Cam Martinez had to step in and play some big snaps for you guys as safety. Just when you watched film, how did you evaluate his game?
I thought Cam did really well. I mean, I think I had confidence in him. I felt like he was game ready going into the season. And, that's just the way I look at things. If I feel like guys are game ready, no matter what circumstance brings them into the game, then I'm completely comfortable with them and confident. And I felt that way about Cam, and I think he showed up, did a great job.
You guys have had to play, kind of move that safety rotation around a little bit. Josh came out the first game, you lengthened, and just kind of what have you seen from that group as a whole, that whenever you're able to plug people in, they still been able to kind of get the job done for you guys?
Understanding and continuing improvement of the scheme and the knowledge of the scheme allows your safeties to be multiple, right? To handle different positions and guys step up. So I going into the season, I felt good. I mean, I feel even better now because we've gone into games. Like I said, a lot of it is until you see it in a game, it's like work in the laboratory, but what I'm seeing in the game is I'm seeing safeties now who are understanding the system. Coach Perry's doing a great job, and now you can kind of plug and play guys, and that's a good thing for us.
Front row right, Austin Ward, Rivals, 97.1 The Fan.
Jim, we've seen how productive that Mike has been up front. Outside of him, how have you felt that interior of that defensive line has performed through these first 3 weeks? And you referenced, I guess, rushing, stopping the rush and the point of attack. Is that an area of emphasis for you?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think our tackles, they haven't had many opportunities in the pass rush, but I felt, if you look at us having good numbers against the run, then you have to. Those are the things that you don't see. Fans don't see it, or the casual observer doesn't see it. But if we're putting up good numbers in the run, then our tackles are doing the grunt work and doing a lot of good things.
Front row right, Tim May, on 3.
As you look at Wisconsin's offensive front, analysts have said that they seem to be more of a developing front this year than that seasoned-looking Wisconsin teams have passed. What have you seen from them specifically? And then number 2, you look more at the Washington State film to see what Washington State had from the standpoint of success against them. How does that kind of work?
Yeah, you want to, you look at the highest caliber or quality opponent, and that was certainly a game that we focused on and will continue. But I think their offensive line is very solid. Now, you're right, I don't have the experience going back years with them, but to me, they're as-built, big, physical guys, well-trained, and it'll be a battle.
And the other thing quickly, it seems like more and more teams now, this might be a different test this week, obviously. These are 2 heavyweights going at each other, but it seems like you guys are really teams are trying to attack you on the edges, because that's where the tall grass is, right?
Mm-hmm.
How have you more and more geared up, especially your corners and the safeties, for what may be coming down the road in that regard?
You're right, it's experience, guys getting in games, understanding that there's going to be shots taken, shots are going to be fired, and you got to have a thick skin, and they're coming, and it's just a continual development of the confidence and to know going into every game at any time, like, hey, this is going to happen. You know, they're not making anything here. They're going to go out there. And, you know, it's a developmental thing. You know, it's game reps are just, they're like gold. You know, they count, you know, even if they don't go as well as you would like, you know, you're building that experience.
Right next door, Joey Kaufman, Columbus Dispatch.
Jim, Ryan was talking to us about CJ's ability to throw on the run, and you guys would do some scrambling drills or some 7-on-7, 7-on-9s, going back to last spring when he kind of first noticed him making progress in that area. Just what have you noticed from going up against him in practice as far as his ability to throw on the move?
Yeah, he's amazing. I mean, I'm glad he's on my team. I mean, it's just, you know, every day in practice, I think since I've been here, it's just been it's incredible to watch some of the throws he makes, where he places the ball, and you know, it makes it tough to defend, but it makes our guys better. We're fortunate to be able to go against him and our receiving core, and to do it on a regular basis, and that Coach Day continues to have us do that. You know, Tuesdays and Wednesdays, no matter what. Doesn't matter that we're playing a team that's going to come out with 3 tight ends or a fullback. You know, I still want to spend time going against our offense with multiple receivers and the throwing game, because that's going to make us better as the season goes on.
And how much harder is it defending the quarterback when he's able to do stuff outside structure?
It changes the game, right? Once the pocket is broken, now all routes have changed, all schemes have changed, you know, because everybody is now converting routes, and defensive guys have to plaster. You know, we could find a guy and take him. It's just, now it's free form football, and that's a lot different than what I try to do, which is, you know, you try to control an uncontrollable game, and once it breaks loose like that, it's every man for himself.
And final questions over here to the right, Adam King, WBNS 10 TV.
Obviously, not every play can be a turnover, but I think you guys went 25 drives without forcing one. How frustrating is that as a defensive coordinator? How much relief was there when you finally got it? And how do you kind of scheme to try to force turnovers? I don't know if that's possible.
Yeah, no frustration, no relief, neither. You know, like I said, it's one metric, and you know, the key point is to get the ball back to the offense. So that's what I look at. Now, scheming to get turnovers is dangerous. I mean, you know, you might, 1 or 2 things maybe. Hey, I think they're going to do this. Let me try this, but they have to come in the natural order of the game by continuous repetition practice, so that a guy feels comfortable. That's Ronnie's play, you know, we've been working on that since I got here, you know, and now all of a sudden Ronnie feels comfortable enough to move from his position and pick that up. But it's just, it's the course of time, repetition, harping on it, and then the more comfortable they feel, the more they can see the play as it's happening, understand what's about to happen, and then, you know, jump it.
Coach, I'm sorry, I've got one more question here. Stephen Means, Cleveland.com.
I mean, you've gone up against your fair share of solid running backs in your career. Just on film, just quickly, I mean, where does Braylon Allen kind of stack up with some of those other guys?
Yeah, he's different, you know. Big, strong back. You know, it's certainly gone up against guys like him before, but he's as good as any for in the big back category. He's as good as any that I have seen, and you know, we have to make sure that we you know, have great form when we tackle him, and you know, rally to the football and vice him in, and you know, it's a team. It's going to be a team effort, because he is very talented.
Great. Coach, thank you very much. Thank you, Jim.
Thanks, guys.